Right, morning folks, welcome to Patchings. Is this for most of you, is this your first day here? Has anyone been more than once? Okay. You chose the best demo really, if this is your first day. We've also got some wonderful music provided by the glass blowers next door. Can you hear it? That's a first that. I've never painted to nice relaxing classical music, but maybe that'll make things a bit softer. Can you hear me at the back? Super. That's it then. Okay. So I'm going to paint a nice snow scene. There you go. It's done. Well done. Off you go. Enjoy your day. Quickest demo in history. So yeah, we're doing watercolours, folks. I'm going to talk you through a 30 to 40 minute demonstration on watercolours, using some maybe slightly different techniques to what you've come across some of the other demonstrations, and also talking about Surge Press and the books, products, that kind of thing as well. If anybody's got any questions, literally just kind of wave at me. That's got to be painting questions though, obviously, no personal problems. When I was here last year, someone said, I've got a rash on my leg, any advice? Stick some orange peel on it, works every time for me. Bit of Savlon, you can't go wrong. Okay, so first of all, the paper, folks. This is called Fontaine paper. It's a cotton paper, it's made in France. It's branded up as Mathew paper, but it's made by a French company called Fontaine. All the products I'm using are available today. If there's anything that you like and you fancy, these are very different products. It's just over there. And at the end of the demo, I'll be hanging around for about an hour signing books if anyone wants to buy a book as well. And there's 2 books available. There's Watercolour for Absolute Beginner, which I will show you later on the screen. And there's also something which is a bit different called Painting Without Paint, which is actually iPad art. Has anybody tried iPad art? There's a few of you. That's good. No. Well, I'll show you a few bits later if you hang around for 5 minutes at the end. Okay, so let's get started then, folks. What I'm going to do first of all is I want to paint the sky and the woodland, okay? Is everybody seeing the screen okay? Super. What time's loose women on? I like that. Okay, so I'm just going to basically wet this thing through. Now as I do this, folks, I've not stretched this paper because life's too short for that, and you don't really need to with a cotton-based paper, to be honest, you know, because it'll go a bit wavy, but it will flatten itself out. It's personal preference, you know, when it comes to stretching paper. I don't tend to bother too much, if I'm honest. I've not stretched a piece of paper for a long time, really. All I've done is I've just literally got this on the back of the sketchbook and it's stuck down with a masking tape on all 4 sides. That is normally enough for what I want to do, to be honest. Now, the colours that I'm using are very different, okay? These are called natural colours and these are my own designer colours. I will talk you through them, I'll show you the different colours. And again, if you want any colours, there's a bit of a show off where you can buy any 4 for £20, which is quite nice because these are normally £6.25 a tube. So it's not a bad time to get them. What I'm going to do is put some warmth into this sky, and we are going to start off with a very pale orange, which is actually called natural orange. And it's very similar to if you mixed burnt sienna with a cadmium yellow. It's a similar kind of colour. I want to work this through. Now the colours on the screen won't be exactly accurate to this. So at the end of the demo, we've got Charles Evans there talking to us as well. At the end of it, it's quite fun this. At the end of the demo, come and have a walk up and you can have a little look at the colours with a bit more detail. So that's natural orange. I want to twist this thing through. Very, very straightforward. This is just the background. Slightly stronger with the orange. Working over what I think is going to be a bit of foliage. Now I'm talking sort of late autumn, early winter for this. Sometimes it snows in July. Global warming. So I'm just going to bring a little bit of colour to the side of the trees there. Very, very simple. This is a size 20 brush. Takes 2 batteries. Turn the bit at the end, starts vibrating, which is good. I said that quick because it sounds like it's not for what you're thinking it is. It's for painting mountains. It gives a bit of character to it. Right, you get a bit of a zzz. Sounds like an electric toothbrush. Last time I was here last year, someone said, Matthew, have you got one of them brushes that vibrates? Or, no. So go and see Charles Evans, he'll tell you one. So I'm basically just bringing in this colour there, folks. Nice little twist, okay? Slightly stronger at the edges, and then I'm going to bring some Clean the colours in the centre, cleaning the brush again, plenty of water on this one, folks, okay? So that was natural orange, very different colour, folks. These are kind of pre-made watercolour, but they're all mixable yourself if you don't like the idea of that. Natural violet, and this is made from hazelwood pigment, and I'm twisting this in the centre of the sky, and I want to work it in towards the orange. It's going to go more of a grey. So natural violet's very similar to if you mix like a dioxine violet with a French ultramarine blue, but this is a ready-made colour for me. It's the colour I use for snow scenes, bluebell woods, that kind of thing. It's also a lovely shadow colour as well, alright? So natural violet, again folks, the colours here are very different to the colours over there, okay? Just bear that in mind. David Dickinson's not really that colour orange in real life. I met him because Dickinson's real deal came to Mansfield. He looked a bit pale actually. Okay, so I'm just going to bring that across there. And that's going to give me some character to the centre of the sky. It's a twisting action, I would describe it as. It's almost as though the steam train's going by, you know, that kind of thing. And it gives these nice little soft edge clouds. And because it's a cotton-based paper, it really works well. Now, I'm going to change colour slightly, clean brush again. And this time I'm going to bring in some natural brown. Now, natural brown is made from your three primary colours. So you've got your blue, red and yellow. And if anyone's got a colour wheel, if you put all three together, you'll get a neutral colour. But you can also get browns working from this. So this is going to be the start of the trees. Very, very loose stuff at this stage. Twist it through, you can't go wrong with this. I've also put some masking fluid on the trees there, which I'll mention later. I used to use the pink masking fluid, which is great because you can see it. This was the pink masking fluid, which was manufactured by the SAA, Society for All Artists, yeah? Do we know of that? And it was great because you could see it, and it was to raise funds for breast cancer care, actually. 50 pence from every bottle went towards that. But they've stopped making it now, unfortunately, because there's a bit of a problem with it. People were mistaking it for Gaviscon. Because it's pink, you see. And I promise you, you don't want to mix up Gaviscon and masking fluid. They kind of have the opposite effect. And you certainly don't want to put Gaviscon on your picture. Although that might be an interesting thing for my next search press book. Make a note of that one. Alright? Okay, so just working this around, folks, making sure it's all nicely covered. That's the start of the trees. But now we're going to change things slightly. What we're going to do next is we're going to bring in one of these monsters. Now, this is a tree brush, okay? This is a tree and texture brush. Now, you've probably seen other people with these having similar things. This is Mathew Palmer's tree brush. Now, this is the really large one. There's actually 4 different brushes available. The small one, the medium, large, and the extra large, okay? This one is designed for foliage. So if anybody can see a painting on the back wall there of like a woodland, then that was done to give that individual leaf effect. It's made from natural hair. I want to clean it and give it a bit of a squeeze. And I want to use some more of the natural orange. Just going to give it a bit of a stipple. You sort of twist it. If I just bring the palette, so it's a beautiful palette, look at that. I'm going to twist it through and stipple it. The wonders of modern technology allow me to do this in slow motion. There's a little button just there, so you can see I'm mixing it into the brush. There it comes up. Wait for it. There you go. So you've got a nice kind of spiky brush, we can see that there, beautiful. And I want to stipple some individual leaves. Now you'll see this in a bit more detail later. In fact, we can get in a bit closer so you'll see how the brush is performing. Now I'm not a cameraman, so that's about as good as it goes, but you can kind of see what we're talking about there, folks, and I'm stippling. The paper is still wet. How many people have problems with watercolour drying like that? This paper, this Fontaine paper, will stay wet for ages, okay? It's like Andrex, it stays wetter longer. So I'm just going to basically stipple in some of this foliage. Other toilet rolls are, of course, available. Let's just... So we're not going to resort to toilet humour today. Let's get this thing working across. Nice brush, folks, very popular, made from badger hair and squirrel hair, which is quite interesting. So it's natural. Now, if you're thinking that sounds a bit grotesque, a good quality sable brush is made from the tail of a weasel. You know what I'm saying? So that is what sable hair is. So it's allowing me to stipple foliage in. It's also quite interesting because if anybody's ever wondered what a wet badger and squirrel smells like, you're welcome to come and have a sniff of that one. It's up to you really. So, stippling it through. It's also good for fancy dress parties as well. Not the German chap, the chap with the walking stick. Now what we're going to do, folks, is I'm also going to work in some other colour as well. I'm going to bring some dark into this, okay? You can see how we're starting to get a bit of foliage. This is the woodland at either side. This is actually based on a local scene in Sherwood Forest overlooking Edwinstowe Church, okay? Clean the brush again, give it a squeeze, and I'm going to bring in some natural brown. And this is going to start to go a bit darker. Stippling away, working it into the orange, getting much less of an autumn colour and much more towards that kind of winter foliage there. But if this was November time, there's often quite a lot of leaf buzzing around that time of year. We can live with that. A few stipples around, working his way through, and just gentle taps of the brush. If anyone's got cats at home, cats love these brushes because there's something in the badger here that makes them go crazy. So I'm just adding a few stipples to this. Now what I'm going to do shortly is put some branches and things on this, okay? Still working my way through. Trees do grow on you, we'll get there. I'm just going to give a few more taps and dobs around. Working a bit darker now, bringing in a shadow colour which is natural grey, which is actually one of the most popular colours that the SAA sell because it is a shadow colour. And there's 50 shades in every tube, so you can't go too far wrong with that one. I know that's about as bad as it gets, folks, I'm sorry. Apologies. But it is Saturday after all. So I'm just going to work some shadows into this, right at the bottom there. And in a few minutes I'm going to soften all this together, blend it all in and put some branches on. So this brush pretty much has done its job there, making sure it's got all the dark in. Nice clean brush, give it a good old squeeze out. Squeeze it in the water, get it all out. It's quite messy this. And then I'm going to fluff the brush up, and I want to basically soften this all together. So I've now got an almost dry brush. Hopefully we can see that massive foliage from either side. I'm just going to stipple this thing through, make sure it's all soft, and any hard lines I'm not liking I can make disappear. Cotton paper like this, Fontaine, is super absorbent, folks. If anyone's used Saunders Waterford, this is a very similar quality to that. This is what all the paintings, this is my little bit here, folks. These are all my pictures. Have a look before you go. Feel free to take any photographs of the pictures, I don't mind that. So I'm just going to stipple that through, making sure I've got plenty of colour around these areas where I need it. And then I'm going to use a branch creating tool, okay? These are free actually. It's actually a plastic card. I've got a few plastic cards that people have left over the years at workshops and things. There's a Subway card there, it's quite a good one. This one's for Ann Summers, no, forget that one. I'll tell you what, we're using SAA membership cards, shall we? That's more like it. I'll use this brush and I'm going to come into these trees here, and basically I'm just going to go in and put lots and lots of branches in the background. So this is a plastic card, and I'm taking the colour off. Can you see that? It's giving a bit of a silver birch tree. Now if you was painting this by yourself, folks, I can imagine a bit of masking fluid in there, sketching them in. You don't need to do any of that stuff. Just use a plastic card, folks. This is speed painting today, folks, which is, if you've never tried it before, it's a bit like speed dating, but this is much more enjoyable. Just basically scraping off these nice branches from the bottom going up. Does that make sense? And it's creating like a dense woodland, and the grey at the bottom is giving the shadow to this, which is quite nice as well. So nice little scrapes, nice little scratches, like so. And just before I give that a dry, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to soften the base of these trees in. Now, I will do the same on both sides, so I'll get the camera back on there. Back to the size 20 brush, nice and clean. This is a sable mixture, this brush, it's gold. gold sable mix, and I'm just going to basically soften these hard lines so they almost become part of the landscape. Landscape to be, of course. Soften these in, like so. Very, very loosely done. And just for a fraction of a second, while that's drying off, I'm going to paint in this stream, okay? So I'm breaking the rules. We're now going to shoot towards the foreground and paint in a bit of a stream, okay? Using a size 10 or 12 brush. We're going to start off with natural grey. Natural grey is mixed from French ultramarine, alizarin crimson and yellow ochre. It's mixed in the factory, folks, and it comes in tubes like this. It's the shadow colour. So it's all branded up as Mathew Palmer stuff, very popular colour, and it's not Payne's grey. Payne's grey will shout at you, this will recede, so very different colour. This is designed for shadows. Does that make sense? You know, it's designed to go in. If you paint a cave or something or a bridge, it will go under rather than out. And that's quite important, really. So I want to use this grey at the starting point of this stream. Now, with everything in painting, it gets there eventually. Anticipation's half the fun. So I'm working around the edge here, taking this all the way across, and just taking this right through to that side there. So a big chunk of grey, clean brush, and then I'm going to go for a tiny, tiny bit of natural brown. Now, natural brown is made from the same three colours, just in a different order. So it's yellow, ochre, alizarin crimson, followed by a tiny bit of blue to make it dark. It's nice for foliage, it's nice for tree branches, and I'm working this out into the area of the snow. Very, very pale colour for this one, so bags of water, same from this side. Really slapping this thing on as quick as I can. And then right in the centre, where the sky will be catching, we're going to put some light on this, okay? So we're going to use some of the orange, natural orange, that we used from the sky, bring a little bit of that in the centre. It all ties it together, and this is just the next stage in the water. So just making sure that's nicely full. And even if, for those people that are perfectionists, because there's some violet in the sky, and someone's bound to say to me, "Are you going to put some violet in?" Wait for it. There you go. Actually, I should probably do that. There you go. That's better. Now, a nice clean brush, I'm going to soften these edges. This will start to take it into the snow. Now what I'll do a bit later, folks, if you're sticking with me, is I will be adding all the shadows to this. So just very nice little flicks on these corners, like so. I'll put some movement in that water because that's healthy. We'll get there, we'll get there. But while that's drying off, I'm going to use a pale grey, natural grey. I'm going to paint in some background. I'm painting the background hills. The paper's pretty much dry at this stage. Again, there was some detail to come later on, working across into those trees. Clean brush, I'm going to use some natural violet, working across. Now while I'm doing this, folks, just to mention, if anyone's from this area, I'm from this area, I live at Bolsover, which is not too far away, and I do watercolour workshops over at Mansfield. Every couple of months. I also do weekly classes at Mansfield, every Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday. So if you want to learn a bit of watercolour, like this sort of stuff, keep onto that leaflet, folks, and give us a call. So that's the starting point of my winter landscape. I'll put a slightly stronger violet in there, just to give a bit more colour. Now obviously today, folks, we're here with Serge Press, and Serge Press are the largest art and craft book publisher floating around, and the quality of the books, of course, are wonderful. I bet all of you have got a Serge Press book somewhere in your library. Am I right? A lot of you, yeah? You're bound to have. Now, I've got a couple of books, and I'm going to just mention this while that's drying off for a few seconds, okay? I've got a couple of books. One of them is very much a classic watercolour book. I'm just going to show you that on the screen, folks. It's been around for about 3 or 4 years. It sells really well. It's called that, Watercolour Absolute Beginner. Now, some of you are thinking, well, that's not me. But when you look through the book, you'll see it's a bit more than that. The first section of the book is very much the how-to. It's very much the how-to, you know, it talks about things like materials and how to mix colours from primaries, that kind of thing. All the essentials, that's the beginner bit. But it very quickly goes into projects, you know, it goes into how to paint like people and figures. See that there? That's Foggy from Last of the Summer Wine. There it is. See this? Man having a wee in the rain. It's all there. It's all in step by step. Couple in love walking. These are the little group of people. All little essentials. How to paint reflections there. Wonderful section. Look at that beautiful autumn tree there. How to get the colours, how to do all this. Summer trees, spring trees, it's all there. The second half of the book is where it gets really good, because what you've got is 12 step-by-step watercolour paintings, all photographed in wonderful search press detail. So you can see there that we've got this wonderful Lake District view with every step on how to do this photographed and detailed, including, and this makes this book quite special, these quarter Imperial size fold out tracings. If you're not a drawer, you can trace. That's not for everybody, but it's there. One of my favourite projects in the book, remember it's all step by step, is actually the winter scene. I like painting snow pictures. This is a winter Derbyshire village. Again, all photographed step by step. And probably the most popular one that I see results of is the bluebell wood. So, nice bluebell wood there with all the stages for doing it, folks. It's 130 odd pages worth of watercolour. I've been painting since I was about 9 or 10, and this is everything I know about watercolours, folks. It's not just for beginners. There's 12 projects in there. And if anyone's interested today, they are $12.99, and I will be hanging around to sign some books as well. And the good news is you can pay on card as well. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. This one, very briefly, Painting Without Paint. This is a new book. Now this is painting with a tablet, okay? Just to show you this on the screen, okay? Basically, if anyone's got an iPad or an Android tablet, this shows you how you can use the apps to paint things like landscapes, trees. I mean, look at this. I mean, you wouldn't know, would you, that's been done using a computer device, but it is absolutely addictive, this thing, folks. It's something you can sit in front of the telly. You can even do it with light off, to be honest, because it lights up. So nice step-by-step book on how to use an iPad or tablet to produce these wonderful paintings. It's the only book of its kind. And this is one of my favourite pictures, The Moonlit Night. Okay, so if that's of interest to you, folks, have a browse through some copies over there, again signed. If anyone's got any questions at the end of the demo, I'm going to be here for the next hour or so, so feel free to wander over. Just going to give this a quick blast through the dryer, folks. It's still, so just bear with me a second. The most important thing to say about this picture is this. Are you ready for this? That is the most important part of that picture, and hopefully you wrote that down, okay? Because I'm not going to repeat that one, okay? So that's nice and dry, folks. Thanks for sticking with me on that one. What I want to do now is I'm just going to paint in some foreground shadows on this picture and get it hopefully coming alive a little bit. Size 10 brush. We're going to use natural violet. It's the colour for this. If you're mixing your own dioxine violet with a tiny little bit of French ultramarine blue, we'll do a very similar job. I want to use this to add some shape and form into this winter landscape, okay? Working from the edge of the water. Clean brush on the tissue and soften away these hard lines towards the top, just using water. So you can see how that's got a bit of form into it even at this early stage. Same for this side as well, folks, working up around this area. Again, the paper's called Fontaine, nice cotton paper. We do have some blocks available today if anyone's interested. And I'm just going to soften this thing away. Same over this side as well. Put a bit of shape and form into the picture. Clean brush tissue, soften away. I'll put some shadows on later on. Just going to get this corner, clean brush on the tissue. Just going to soften away so you can see hopefully how that's giving a bit of shape and form. It's getting a bit more of a feel to this picture now, folks. Same here as well, just a few little extra bits of shadows randomly. Clean brush tissue again and soften away just on those corners there. So that's giving a bit of shape to the picture there. I'm just going to put in a little bit of distant hill coming over there. Clean brush tissue again, so that'll create a separation coming through there. Now while that's drying off, I want to paint in the banking around the water and get a bit of movement in that water as well. So I've got a size 6 brush. I want to use some natural brown with a bit of grey. And I found this piece of tissue hanging from a tree in the car park this morning, so I thought, you know, waste not, want not, we might as well use that. Times are hard, Brexit and all that business. We're going to come down to here, and we're just going to put a little bit of darkness. Is somebody singing now? I don't need to say anything at this. It's always a bit different when you come to Patchings every year, never changes. Now, a bit later there's going to be a tree there, the world's quickest tree, so I'm just going to reflect it. It's not even there yet. That sounds nothing like Cliff Richard. Talking about that, I'm going to put a few shadows in this. Which one? I know it's bad, isn't it? I'm just going to, hey look, I'm doing my best. He's only a local lad and he's doing his best. What we're going to do is just going to put a few bits of dark around the edge of this snow scene, followed by a few ripples in the water. Can't go wrong. Keep it nice and straight, folks. I'm singing We Wish You a Merry Christmas in a minute, and I'm painting a snow scene, and it'll all be like global warming or something going off here. Working along this edge here again. Nice and dark. Again, this is a mix of natural brown, natural grey. There's 14 natural colours in the range. It's been around for a while, and there's also 2 skin tones as well. If anyone likes painting portraits, we have some artist quality skin tones available as well. Any questions or you want to see any samples of that, folks, just come and give me a shout. Right, if we compare this left-hand side of the picture to the right side, you can see a big difference. That bit of darkness actually makes quite a difference to the picture. Obviously doing the same here as well. And we're just going to work this thing through there. So it's a nice dark colour. Making use of this knot surface paper, and it's got a nice texture, so I can incorporate that into the picture. Again, just put a few little bits of ripples and horizontal movement lines coming through there. It all helps. Every little helps. There we go. And I'm actually going to turn the picture on the side for a second, just to confuse you. Feel free to follow the picture. What I want to do here is I want to do a bit of dry brush. Now, the reason I do this way is because when you paint on an easel like this, you spend more time stood at the side, so things look straight, but actually a bit crooked. But that's given a nice reflective effect. Can you see that bit of drop to it? Works every time, almost like a frozen lake or something. And of course the same thing would apply to this side as well. Size 6 brush. Working my way down, giving it a nice reflection. Give it some nice depth. Now, this demonstration is actually being recorded, so watch what you say. And it will actually be on a website called Watercolour.tv. So www.watercolour.tv. Okay, and it will be available for free to have a look in a day or so. So for those people that have picked up a leaflet, it's on there. Go on that website and you'll see this demo, so you can paint along at home. That's pretty unique, don't you think? So you can have a go at home. All for free, folks. Watercolour.tv, write it down, www.watercolour.tv. It'll be on there probably by tomorrow, okay? So you can have a look at it. If you like it, you can paint it yourself. If anyone's got a pen, folks, and you are writing websites down, a really nice one to write down while I finish this water is www.conjunctivitis.com. That's the site for sore eyes, that one. It's only got about 10 minutes left of this photo, should be fine. I'm just going to put a little bit of dry brush, okay, just scattered around these edges. Conjunctivitis.com. Shocking, isn't it? I don't know where I get some from. Just going to add a little bit of... But it says, folks, Watercolour.tv is a great place to get some watercolour tuition from. There's hundreds of video tutorials. This one will be on there, and it'll be on there free, so you can watch it and have a go. Okay, right, so what I'm going to do now, folks, I'm going to add some fields to this thing in the background, alright? And for this, I'm going to use a pale grey. Let's get a bit close into this distance here. Let's create a bit of a distant area on this watercolour, okay? So I'm just going to paint in some fields and hedgerows and things, working them way through, while the Salvation Army's entertainers in the background. It's quite nice having a bit of music to paint to though. So I'm just using a nice pale natural grey, folks, and I'm adding some nice distance just to create a little bit of depth in the picture, like so. We're not finished yet. It's nice to come to Patchings and it not rain, because all you can hear is the rain normally. So we've created distance, folks. We're going to get a bit closer. What we're going to do here is we're going to use, last time we used this monster brush, this extra large tree brush, you know, for painting the big leaves. I mentioned that there's a large one for doing large trees, medium for medium trees, and the small ones good for doing bushes and hedgerows. I'll probably get a bit of grief by saying this, but it was going to be called the bush brush at one time. Need I say more? Okay, I'm just going to take a bit of scrap paper here, folks, with a straight edge. I want to paint in the first bit of detail on this picture, okay? I'm waiting for Silent Night, me. Right, we're going to use this small brush with a straight edge. I'm going to lay it on the picture here. I'm just going to stipple a bit of a hedgerow, okay? Now this needs to taper off in a second. I'm leaving a gap for the sheep to get through. I'm just going to make sure there's nothing down the back. I'm going to go up until that entire area just nicely disappears off. Let's say behind the hill, okay? Now on this side I could do a similar thing. Lay the card on, give it a good old stipple, working across. Now this one could quite happily work into those trees over on that far side there. You can't see that. It's not very exciting, to be fair though. A bit of water, a bit of tissue, just to make sure that whole thing just nicely disappears into those trees on that side there. And that's giving them our first kind of sort of foreground. It separates the picture, brings it forward, pushes the piece back. Now the great thing about this is I could use this anywhere I think, just to stick it on the corner, just to add a bit of nice winter foliage. Of course, if you look at a summer painting over there, you can see that more time's gone into it using summer colours. But it's just nice, it gives a bit of interest to the scene, and that's quite important. These are called Mathew tree and texture brushes, folks, all made from badger and squirrel hair. Then your painting life will be complete once you've got them. Working it through just a couple of little areas. Obviously, you can keep going forever at this, but when people say, how do you know when you've finished a painting? Well, if you demonstrate for a living, when you get to 45 minutes. Right, now in the centre of this thing there, folks, let's use the same colour with a size 6 brush, and let's actually paint in a little bit of a gate. That'll give me some interest. Now, that's a 5-bar gate with 4 bars, but you know, anything goes really. Just going to put a little bit of a footpath. This is all that browny grey mix that I mixed up for doing the edge of the edge of the water there. So that's just giving me a bit of interest, and I can just add a little tiny bit extra of this colour just along this edge. Makes a difference having a screen so you can actually see what we're doing. I'm just going to work this thing across here. So I'm using this colour, which is much warmer than the grey, and it's just a size 6 brush, very gentle colours for this one, making sure this all disappears off and becomes part of the background. Now that little church there in the background, I'm going to use a colour. This colour is called natural yellow. Looks more like baby poo, you know what I'm saying? But if anybody can see a snow scene there with a building on, or anything with buildings on, that's the colour of sandstone. It's called natural yellow. Looks more like baby poo, and I know because I've got a 3-month-old baby at home. To be fair, it's a bit more greener than that, but it's not, it's close, really. It was the people in the factory that called it natural yellow. Now this is a good sort of sandstone colour. Now I live near Chesterfield, do you know what I'm saying? So if this church ends up a little bit crooked, I'm the only person at Patchings that can get away with it, alright? Crooked spire. Put a few little spots to represent a few farm cottages. Now that needs a little bit of detail on there, folks, just to give, but you can see the vicar on that. That's how good having a screen and camera is. You are so spoilt on the search press tent today, folks. I want you to go next door to Charles and say, they've got a screen next door. And then Charles will come and strangle me, but I can live with that. There's no obvious light source on this picture yet, but let's say the light is coming from this side, coming from the right, which means I'm going to ever so slightly darken one side of the church. This is more like it, isn't it? Do you know what I'm saying? There you go, a little bit of interest there. I'm not going to say anything for the next half an hour. I can't do that though, I can't be quiet, it's just not in my nature. There's my little bit of church in the distance there. That's a rather large sheep there.
We're just seeing this.
Yeah. Well, let's put a bird in the sky, shall we? Let's put a bird. Now, if you've never seen one, that is a bearded chuff, okay? See? They're quite large birds. It's a bearded chuff. A what? A bearded chuff. You only see him in Nottinghamshire. Normally on a Saturday night in Mansfield, if I'm being honest. Bearded chuffs, beautiful birds. You sometimes get a greater spotted chuff, and I call it chuff. It's happening, folks. Yeah, that detail. There's just really one more thing to do on this, folks. Just going to paint in some big trees. Now, for painting the trees, I'm going to turn it on the side. Okay, turn it on the side like this, and we'll use a size 10 brush, size 10. And the way I do trees is probably a bit different to everybody else. I paint them all as one colour. I'll paint them as a solid, and all the books will show you these techniques. I'll paint this as one complete colour, and then what will happen is light will come out of it afterwards. So I'm using natural brown, natural grey, same colour, and basically I'm just going to stick in a couple of larger trees coming up here. This is the bit where people say, you've ruined it, you've ruined it. Now, I always paint them this way, but only when working on the easel. So I'll get that nice sort of main trunk of the tree there, okay? Now, I'll do one at the top here as well, but it's just the same as the other one, really. While I do that, just listen to the music for 30 seconds. Feel free to clap along. So that's my main trunks of the tree. I'll turn it back this way. So I've got two telegraph poles. Now what I'm going to do here is use a size 6 brush with the same colour. Remember, light's going to come on this later on, folks. I have put some masking fluid on these trees as well, which we'll obviously take off before we go. And I'm just going to add these branches. I'm just using a number 6 brush. I mean, that you can see that's a beautifully pointed brush there. I teach a lot of people all over the country, and I see lots of people's brushes looking more like that. I've had that brush for 30 years. I'm not changing. I mean, I do this day in and day out, folks. I've literally just come back yesterday from 3 weeks back to back in the Lake District, teaching painting holidays up there, which sounds very nice. It is, it's lovely. But if anyone fancies painting holidays, folks, on the bottom of that leaflet I gave you is all the details. We do include transportation from this area, so you don't even have to drive up there, or railway station pickups at Penrith. So if anyone can get to Penrith, you get picked up. And transportation to painting locations is included in the form of a minibus, which is rather nice. So it's outdoor painting, and last week we was painting on the banks of Windermere. We was painting actually in a wonderful place called Rydal Hall, which is near where Wordsworth used to live. And we was painting at Hawkshead and Derwent Water. I assume that some of you know what I'm talking about when I say these places. The previous week we went to this wonderful distillery, the Lake District Distillery, and this is not a joke, I'm serious. And it's surrounded by wonderful scenery. Most people were drunk while they were doing the workshop, but that actually makes it slightly better, if I'm being honest. So, just adding a few branches, folks. Still using a nice size 6 brush. And you can see that that's just adding that little bit of life to those trees. It's pushing the foliage back. This side wants exactly the same, no different. Again, I quite often turn these things around just to confuse people. Let's put that just there. There we go. And again, I've put some masking fluid on before I started on the branches. And again, just a quick reminder, folks, this painting plus hundreds of others are on watercolour.tv, and this one will be on there free. It's £40 a year for Watercolour TV. It's a subscription-based watercolour tuition site, and there's new tutorials added monthly. All the pictures you see around here and on the banner are all on there. This one will be on there for free, folks. So get on there, have a look. If you fancy having a go, it's only a 40-minute picture by the time it's edited down. And I'm just listening to that music, trying to work out which one it is. Sounds like something from Harry Potter to me. Okay, so you can see those nice branches have gone on. Now, what I'll do in a few seconds, let's get back to the full picture. You can see that's starting to take a little bit of shape. What I'm going to do, folks, is just add a few incidental branches at the side while that dries off. So, just kind of weaving in between here. And these are just little vertical flicks. Now, these are in the corner, so, and there will be some shadows coming shortly. These only need to be there briefly, okay, and literally a little flick, that's all they are, little flicks. Aren't they a girl band? One X Factor. Sounds like one to me anyway. So it's just lots of those really. It tells your mind that, along with the squeaky cardy thing, that it actually is giving more woodland, and it also extends it down as well. Same here as well, of course, little flicks. Just working the way through. Like I said, I'll put some shadows on this very shortly, and highlights in those trees, that's a big thing. Let's have a look at the church. Let's put a clock on the church. What time is it? Ooh, almost time to finish. Put a little bit of detail there, just to say there's a bit of something happening around there. The point is, folks, you know, you can keep going forever with pictures, you know, you can keep adding little bits and bobs. I'm just going to give that the very quickest of dries, just to put the final little couple of minutes, the highlights on, and the shadows. Like watching paint dry this, just give it a bit of a dry. There we go. Okay, so yeah, I'm just going to put a few shadows and a few highlights on this thing. So let's take a look at the back of the wood. Okay. Now, I said the light's coming from the right-hand side, so using natural violet, very pale. Just want to put some shadows from these trees, basically. Again, these colours, folks, natural colours. Have a look at them. Very nice colours to work with. Let's put a bit of a shadow cast from there as well. It all helps, you know, those little flakes. Again, girl band, one X Factor. Let's put that over there as well. Put a few little sort of shadows coming through. Little flicks. You can obviously add as much as you need to these pictures. I've just popped a shadow. You know where this hedgerow disappears? Just spotted it on the screen. Just put a shadow just there. And I'm just going to make that disappear. Just to give that impression as though it is the hill. You see what I mean? It's created instant separation. Okay, so highlights on the tree, folks. What we're going to do here is use another one of my brushes, and daft as it seems, it's actually called a lift-out brush. Now these are very, very popular brushes. There's 3 different sizes: small, large and extra large. It's a super fine brush designed for taking light out of a picture. Not an expensive brush at all. £67 it is for that brush. £4 this brush. Clean it and give it a gentle squeeze. It's a beautifully crisp brush that is actually a square brush, but it's so fine on the tip. It's designed for one reason, folks, and that is for taking light out of areas. And if I lighten the right hand side of a tree where the light's coming from, you can see it's putting a nice bit of light on it. Now obviously I could spend hours doing this, but we're not going to do that today. You could also make a branch like this come from the centre of a tree by extending the light on it. Does that make sense? Most people paint trees very two-dimensional, so on this one I could actually lighten the trunk that runs in front of that one, wipe it off with tissue, and it's now behind. You see what I mean? So you can create a bit of interest in a picture just by putting light on it. Same at the top there, look. I can make that branch look as though it's just coming slightly into the tree just by putting a bit of light there. Can you see that okay? And if you look at the whole tree, I mean, you can see it's got a wonderful bit of light on it compared to this very two-dimensional one. It always works nice. So obviously I could do the same over here as well. Put a nice bit of light into it. Lots of you have picked up on the daisies picture over there. Know what the daisies on, yeah? Those daisies in the background were all lifted out with this brush. Didn't paint them in, they were removed after. And that will give you that kind of out of focus feel. Does that make sense, yeah? If I can get the camera onto this one, this London picture here, all those highlights that you see in Parliament, from the Westminster Bridge to the actual clock face, and even the light on the lamp rail, has all been removed with that brush. So that was all blocked in. All Parliament was blocked in natural grey. I've got to say it was painted straight, not crooked like that. All the Parliament's pretty crooked, if we're being honest. And then all the highlights were removed. And it's almost like, someone described it once as a bit like kind of sculpture. You kind of sculpture the picture, you know? So it's a really good way of working. It's also bloody addictive as well. You don't actually destroy the picture in any way, because it allows you to actually take a little bit of light out of this, and it's a non-aggressive technique, and you can see just how that branch now comes from the right parts of the tree. Does that make sense? Obviously, you could also put some light in water as well. Horizontal highlights in water. A bit of light there. Something else that's good for doing that is sandpaper. I use a lot of sandpaper. Sandpaper's quite good. This is from Pound Shop this. If you've got a little bit of rough skin on the back of your heel, it's good for that. But it's also nice for putting a bit of light in the centre of your picture. You know, when you can see that. See the light there?
Yeah.
Kind of puts like a shimmer, don't it? Which is quite effective. There's a souvenir for you there. Okay? You can keep that and you can take it free of charge. I'm not charging for that. I do have some more souvenirs as well. A craft knife. A craft knife is nice, folks, because a craft knife is good to put a little bit of light in the water. Also makes a wonderful sound, so we can put a little bit of white in the water, reflecting the snow. Can we see that? There you go. Okay. Now, I see people doing this at workshops, and they're like, I'm scared to do it, and they're like this. You've got to really give it some welly, folks. Don't be afraid. I've been scratching my paper for over 20 years, and I've never ever gone through to the other side. It's quite effective, that little bit of light in the water. It just adds a bit of a... The main thing is it brings the white into it. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's quite important, okay? Now, I do have masking fluid on this. I've got a little rubber thing here just to take the masking fluid away. That puts a bit of snow on it, of course. I'm sure you can see that there. Just gives it a lift. Exactly the same over this side, of course. You can use your finger for this. So it's just a rubber, basically. It's actually called the mask away after it seems, but it's a rubber. That's all it is. And if I zoom in close to where the masking fluid is, what I always like to do, and the last little tip of the picture, is to get a bit of water on a number 6 brush and just lightly soften it, just so it looks like it's attached. You see what I mean? Because masking fluid can look a little bit like Tipex if you're not careful. Other correction fluids are available. Just going to basically use a little bit of water there just to soften that fluid, just so it's not quite as harsh on the actual picture. And I think it's also worth saying that a craft knife is also good if you wanted to get any bits of snow on any other trees, the background ones. You know, little bits of white when the focus comes back, and it just adds a bit of something else. And I think there's really only one thing to do on this, and that's to take the masking tape away, folks. And it will just show you how, it's like framing the picture really, when you do that. I'll sign it as well. And again, folks, just to mention before you go off to your next little section, if anyone's interested in the watercolour book or even the iPad art book, and if anyone is interested in iPad art, folks, I will show on here, if anyone wants to come have a close-up look on how you can actually work on an iPad, and you can produce some wonderful pictures. But if anyone's interested in a watercolour book or an iPad book, I will sign them for you today. Come and have a look round, folks, and I'm just going to say that that wants a nice little signature there, Vincent Van Gogh. And there you go, folks, that's me finished. So thank you for